Yeah, the problem with people is whatever they touch, they get stuck to that. What I mean by that is, whatever they get involved with, they get identified with it. You become a scientific researcher or you become a spiritualist or something else. What is needed is an open-ended approach to life. Right now, you need some support in the form of maybe a conducive atmosphere or maybe chemical support from outside, whatever else you may need, therapies and stuff. If you don't do that, it is just like a child is anyway going to become a man or a woman. But will it just happen if you just throw him on the street? You have to put him through his paces for him to become a reasonable man or a woman, isn't it? You have to take those steps. So as a child is born, anyway, it's like anything else, you just throw it there in the… See, if you take a seed and throw it in the soil is good, it will just grow, largely. You don't have to tell a mango tree that, don't forget it, you're a mango tree, don't end up with apples, you have to produce only mangoes, no teaching needed, because they've all come as composite life. All other creatures have come as composite life within the two lines that nature has drawn for them. So there is not much risk of them going off. A tiger is born, you don't have to teach him how to be a tiger. If he just gets to eat well, he will become a tiger. He has no such confusions. Will I be a good tiger or not? Will I end up as a house cat? Will I grow up as a tiger? No such insecurities. But a human being has come unformed. And this being unformed is not a curse. It is the most fantastic thing that you can determine the nature of your growth and your form. What form you want to take is determined by you. But most people are allowing this form to happen by society around you and influences around you to tinker you into some form, instead of human consciousness determining the shape of the society in which we live. The society in which we live is right now determining the shape of the human consciousness, which is the fundamental flaw in the way we are conducting ourselves. Having said that, when it comes to an ailment first needs compassion, mental ailment especially, it needs compassion because as I think the doctor mentioned that you can't take a blood test and say, okay, you're mentally ill. Maybe there's some things which are visible these days, but largely it is not like you can take your blood test and say your liver is not functioning properly. You cannot say that. So, there is no proof. In America, there is a way of expressing this, are you just crazy or are you crazy, you know? Just crazy means you're crazy in a nice way, you're crazy about something. It is nice experience, you're just crazy. If you're crazy means you need treatment. So, the thing is, what is sanity, what is insanity is such a thin line. A whole lot of times, people around you, people who work with you, people who live with you, many times you think they're crazy, isn't it? But they're just crazy, they're not crazy. So why I'm trying to make this distinction in a crude way is because it's that crude in the world outside. When somebody behaves little out of control, we do not know whether they're doing it out of their irresponsibility or something else is for compelling them to do it that way, you know? You do not know. One moment it looks like they're really ill. If you reach out with compassion, they suddenly take advantage of that and start doing other things to you. Then you push them back. This is a struggle, I'm sure you've seen this with your patients all the time. You cannot really make out absolutely when are they really sick, when are they making it up, when are they playing it to their advantage, you know? You cannot make a distinction. With physiological ailments, you can clearly say, this is it, this is what is happening. Even if the person pretends to be pain, the doctor will say, no, he doesn't have enough pain, his threshold may be low, he's just acting up, whatever, because it's all indicative, largely. But mental suffering is not like that. We do not know exactly what's happening because it's a complex mechanism like that. There is no one single or absolute parameter to say, yes, this is happening, yes, this is not happening. It is… I'm sorry to say this, In whatever kind of psychiatry we are in, there is a little bit of evidence, there's a little bit of guesswork, there's a little bit of arriving at certain conclusions, all these things are involved. Otherwise, you cannot handle human mind because there are no absolute lines, this is it, there is no such thing. Having said that, if somebody needs societal support, can we create it? That's a question mark always. Sometimes we can create it, sometimes we cannot. A whole lot of them would come out with proper loving nurture around them, whole lot of them. But that nurture is not practical most of the time, because when a person behaves irresponsibly or rather unreasonably, how many people around them are sane enough to provide a very loving nurture? They will also go crazy. If this person behaves in unreasonable ways, they will also start responding in unreasonable ways because they are not very far away from this person. They also, with small provocations, are capable of going into the same states. So where do you find that ideal society which will nurture them like that? Very, very hard. We have tried a lot with a whole lot of them in our yoga center, but even in the yoga center, though everybody is committed to making this happen, when somebody becomes beyond certain reason, their behavior becomes beyond reasonable situations, they start creating scenes and throwing things around, then everybody starts reacting, Sadhguru, do we need to take care of this person? Not possible for us. It comes up at some point because everybody gets tired of it somewhere. So then medication becomes absolutely necessary when we are not able to do it by talking to them, by creating a nurturing atmosphere, you're not able to do it. Obviously, it's medication, not meditation. I'm talking about medication, your arena. It has to be by medication, because without chemical influence, you are not able to correct their whatever is happening within them. Not that everything gets fixed, but at least it gets controlled. When it gets controlled, reasonably controlled, then we can teach them methods. But the biggest problem that I have seen with people with psychological imbalances is getting them to commit to do it. They will develop such a resistance for something that's good for them. To make them take the medicine is a huge challenge. I don't know if you face these things, because if you're just treating people by prescription, at homes there is a huge challenge to make that person pop the pill. They're in such bad condition, they're suffering so much, they're making everybody suffer around them, but getting them to take the medicine is such a big challenge. Everyday circus you have to do around them to get that done, because there is a natural instinct of self-destruction in them. They're moving towards that so rapidly, you have to mask the medicine and give it, but today there are so many human rights stuff, you cannot give medicine forcefully to somebody even if they're dying. There are all these issues are there in the society, but I have seen so many people, the moment they get to a certain level of psychological imbalance, there is a kind of a superiority kind of thing within themselves, that they think they're better than everybody, they think the whole world is crazy, they don't want to take the medicine, they openly say, you take medicine, you are the one who needs it. Well, it's tough. Because there is no absolute measures that this is this is that, there is no absolute measure. So where does something come in? Where does spirituality come in? It depends how you describe or define spirituality. Spiritual process is not one aspect of life. Spiritual process includes psychiatry, includes psychological therapy. Spiritual process includes chemistry also. But we are looking at chemistry as managing from within. In India, spiritual process and Ayurveda always connected. They never separated the two, because if you look back at the Ayurvedic doctors of the past, not today they're coming from the 4 years or 5 years of college, but otherwise if you look back at the Ayurvedic and Siddha Vaidya people, they were all considered as Siddhas, they're sages. They are both spiritual and they're doing medical part of it on one side. So, we never separated human well-being that it can be treated in a compartment. We always saw it has to be treated on all levels. If you do not address it on all levels, there will be no results. It is this addressing my way or your way has come up because what we are involved with, unfortunately we are getting identified with it, which is a wrong way to approach.
So may I just ask a follow-up question here? So Sadhguru, what in your view is the fundamental cause of mental disorders?
Uh, if you're asking for one cause,
Well, it could be many.
there are too many. If you want me to list it a little bit, I can't list all of them. See, one thing is the way we eat. It's a very big part of mental illness. The way we're ingesting chemicals and hormones today unconsciously at various levels is a serious part of mental illnesses of this generation. How we ingest, how we take food in. This may sound little far-fetched for UK, but please listen to me carefully. We look at life like this. You are who you are as a person. You are who you are because of the parentage that you had, the schools that you went to, the education that you had, now the exposure that you have in your life. That's why you have become this kind of a person, isn't it? It's all many things receiving. So all the times you're receiving, what you're receiving is not just information and thought. Life receives in so many levels. On the energetic level, it receives. So in India, we see that anywhere if you want to receive something, first thing is you cross your legs, all right? Right now I'm sitting that way, it may not be visible to you. But first thing is cross your legs because we don't want to receive from the lower part of our body. We want to receive… anything positive means we want to receive from the upper part of our body. So if you go to some place where we think it's energetically strong, first thing is we cross our legs and keep our hands open because we want to receive from the dimensions which represent… in the yogic physiology, it's like this. There are 112 chakras, 114, but actually 112 within the human system. Out of these 112, there are 7 categories of them, 16 in each one of them. These 7 are generally known in the world today as chakras. So the first 3 are survival processes. And the in-between one is representing a meeting of this. It is from here on, from anahata onwards, which is enlightening processes of life. That dimension of life may not open up for most human beings, but at the same time, though there is no specific practice or intention within them, just by education, just by focus, just by attitude, you might have become, you know, every human being is evolving themselves at their own pace. The question is, they are consciously evolving at a rapid pace or are they going slowly? But nobody can say that I've been the same since I was 10 years of age. We are all evolving in some way, in our understanding, in our experience, in our perception, in our wisdom. Every one of us are evolving. But spirituality, what it means is, because we understand we are mortal in nature and our time is very limited, we want to evolve as fast as we can. Everywhere in the world, in every language, many sayings are there like this, to suggest that wisdom comes only in old age. Isn't that a terrible waste of wisdom and life? Wisdom should happen at the earliest part of your life. That is when you can really enjoy your life, that is when you can create a wonderful life. Wisdom happened just 3 days before you died. What is the point of this wisdom? Maybe it's still useful, I'm not saying it is not useful, but it would be far more useful, it came when you were 20 years of age, you became wise. Oh, you would build a fantastic life, isn't it? So in that sense, it is important you receive certain things in certain ways. Food is considered very basic level of reception. How we receive food, what we receive is very important. Today, what are we receiving? Right now, as you see societies get more and more affluent, they start eating worse and worse food. What a rural person in India would not touch, very sophisticated cities are eating that kind of food. When I say that kind of food, almost anything that Western societies are using today are a minimum 30 to 60 days old. In yoga, their food is classified as sattva, rajas and tamas. Tamas means inertia. If you eat anything which has tamas, inertia will come in your system. Inertia does not mean you just become lazy. Inertia means certain things slow down. Certain things means essentially regeneration of the system slows down. Today you know that neuronal regeneration is one of the most important aspect of keeping your brain reasonably functional throughout your life. The practices, the simple practices that we are teaching as a part of inner engineering program, now studies have been done by various universities in US. Now they've set up the Beth Israel Medical Center with the Harvard, in the Harvard Medical School, has set up a center called Sadhguru Center for Conscious Planet. The idea is consciousness, cognition and compassion. Because cognition is not the same from person to person. Why is it so? There are various aspects to it. Now that I'm talking about food, if you're consuming foods which are tamasic or causes inertia in the general function of your system, in the energetic process of who you are, then you will see cognition levels slowly will go down over a period of time. And to instigate that, because everybody understands this is why they're drinking cups and cups of Coca-Cola or coffee or alcohol or something else, because they know they need to balance that. So this kind of balance is a very rudimentary way of balancing your system, that you're putting wrong things and then you're trying to correct it with right things. The highest number of antacids in the world, nearly 60% of the world's antacids are sold in America, the most affluent population on the planet. This means they have a whole choice of nourishment. They can eat the best food, but no, they will eat the worst food, because commercial forces will decide what you eat. You cannot eat consciously anymore what you want to eat. Just I'm saying, if everything becomes fresh food, in the yogic culture, if you cook something, the maximum time in which you can eat it is 1.5 hours, 90 minutes. Before that, you should have eaten the food. After that, we won't touch the food because it has started gathering tamas, inertia will begin to happen. If you want to experiment, you can experiment, eat something very fresh for 1 week, eat something which is processed and kept for 1 month, 2 months and then eat it, you will see the level of alertness in the system, you will notice it in your experience. But it is happening at the cellular level, it is happening in terms of, we call this ojas, there is no English word for that. If you create sufficient ojas, which is a non-physical dimension of energy, if every cell in your body is wrapped in this, believe me, your aging process is almost… will not progress. Your cellular age will almost remain stagnant for a long period of time. Some of the tests they have done on me and they are saying that my cellular age is 25. Well, I still am like 25, I'm maintaining the same level of activity, I'm maintaining the same weight, same everything. This is not some miracle. Every human being is capable of this with some simple attention to fundamental things. Going further in terms of food, there is something called as viruddha ahara. That means, if you eat one thing and put another thing which works opposite to that, then in your system there is a war. You know, digestive process is largely between acids and alkalines and all this stuff. So if you put things like this, mixed up together, right now, because the British have taken a lot to the Indian food, I see Indian curry and Indian restaurants doing very well out there. For example, you eat meat which is fatty. If you ate it by itself, it may not cause that much damage. But you ate that with rice and ghee, you call that biryani and you ate it. Now the damage is big because these two things will not go together. This is why any non-vegetarian food and milk-related food were never mixed, because the moment you mix it, it will go opposite to each other and you create a battle within yourself. Battle means just this, if you eat food, in the yogic culture, food should not remain in your stomach bag for more than 2.5 hours. Within 2.5 hours, it should have moved out, you must be feeling empty stomach. Hunger will not come, empty stomach will come. And that is good. We want our stomach to be always empty, because in an empty stomach, everything works well. And the colon health is something that's completely neglected today. If you do not keep your colon clean, keeping your mind in a balanced state is very, very difficult. So in Ayurveda and Siddha, first thing if you say anything, you are having sleepless nights, you are having disturbed something, mild, any kind of psychological problems, first thing is purging. Purge the system, clean the colon, suddenly you feel little balanced. It is not a whole solution, but it'll bring the basic necessary atmosphere in the body to make the corrections. Either with medicine or with necessary practices, you can bring about correction. So how we eat, how our mothers ate when she had the responsibility of nurturing another life, how she ate, how she did things, all these things have significance. We are not taking care of food, we are not taking care of our practices, how we breathe, how we drink, how we do things. No. When we eat, always we want our legs to be folded because we don't want to receive from lower level of body. People may think, oh, this is superstitious. Well, what you think is superstition, believe me, in another… now that we have this research center going, we'll focus on these things. You will see in another 10 years, you will find medical evidence for this. You will find, because we know this is how it works. This nobody can dispute because we know from experience this is how it works. But evidence you can find, see somebody commits a crime, it takes 10 years to prove. Does it mean to say murder happened after 10 years? No, murder happened. There's no doubt about that. But evidence building may take time. Right now, medical sciences are going in that way that they want to build evidence for everything that we know by experience. It is good, it gets a undisputable kind of legacy later on. That's a good thing to do, this research must happen, I'm not against that. But the important thing is to observe life the way it happens within myself, because this is the closest life that you have. In your life, this is the closest life. If you do not know what's happening here, how do you notice what's happening with somebody else? Just by external observation, by gathering data about various things and coming to conclusions. That may work sometimes, but a whole lot of time it does not work because that's not how a human being is made. You cannot add up lungs, liver, kidney, spleen and make a human being. You cannot add up all these things and make a person either. Well, you can get one rough picture, with that you can do treatments and works. But there is no question, there is relevance to every dimension of life. How do we apply this to a person who is suffering right now? That needs a compassionate approach, not a standard approach, my way or your way. It's a very silly way to go at it, that this is the only way it can be done, because that's not how human beings are. Something very simple I'm telling you, children especially with lot of mental ailments, I look at them and they say they don't need any yoga, nothing, he's not going to do yoga, nothing. Put him into swimming classes, put him into tennis classes, send him trekking in the mountains. Within 6 months, they're doing fine, you know. All they needed was that activity and exposure to nature and something to focus on intensely, something to get involved, expend their energy in a certain way. This is all they needed. But instead of that, if we put them on medication at that time, that may become a lifelong problem. So, taking a judicious action, there is no perfect action. Nobody has perfect action anywhere. A judicious action of what could be maximum right rather than wrong, more right than wrong is all you can do. I don't think anybody has an absolute right about mental conditions that people are in.
Sadhguru, thank you very much.
Thank you very